Greetings everyone, my name is Atterville, and I welcome you all to my Let's Replay of Castlevania Bloodlines, a gem of an entry into this franchise released for the Sega Genesis in 1994. I'm playing through this game again, both to celebrate Daibuman's birthday and to fulfill a promise I made over 7 years ago. That being to complete the game again on expert difficulty using Eric Lecarde. If you didn't watch my original Let's Play, which I don't blame you if you didn't, it's poor quality, I'll explain almost everything again. This game is also special to me, as this was the first game I fully completed on my channel. This wasn't my first LP, that'd be Paladin's Quest, but that never was completed. So here's Eric. He wields the Lecarde spear. Compared to John Morris, he moves a bit faster, and his spear has longer range. The trade-off is that it deals a bit less damage, which only really becomes important when you get to the bosses. The spear also grants Eric a few nifty abilities. By holding down and then pressing the jump button, Eric can propel himself upwards. I skipped stage 1-2 entirely. John is forced to go down there. So our first boss is... I don't know what to call this, a Cerebus? A giant fire dog? It makes you immune to all attacks during the duration of the jump. I abused this a lot during this playthrough. Hellhound, got it. Comparing normal with expert mode, there aren't that many differences, outside there being a few more enemies and fewer healing items. Both characters can upgrade their weaponry up to level 4. However, if you take a hit while you have a level 4 weapon on you, it'll be downgraded to level 3. In order for that upgrade to fall, I believe you have to destroy 30 candles first. Eric's enhanced range is really helpful when you want to attack enemies from afar, not to mention that Eric can attack directly upwards, whereas John can't. Don't worry about spoiling the game. I played through this at least several dozen times. This is technically my 46th attempt at the game. And here's our first true boss battle, Armor Battler. Pretty straightforward. Just keep your distance and get ready to dodge. Sub-weapons also make mincemeat out of them. And that was the ruins of Dracula's castle. A pretty solid start, and a nice tribute to the preceding games in the series. One of the reasons why this game is unique compared to pretty much all of its predecessors, the majority of the game does not take place at or around Dracula's castle. Our two hunters travel across Europe in order to stop Bathory's plans. I just wanted to point out how beautiful this reflective water effect is. I know Rocket Knight Adventures did something similar for the lava stage. A combination of a vampire killer's two greatest weaknesses in this franchise: stairs and water. It's not just that Eric can't swim, he has super drowning skills. For some odd reason, he cannot hold his breath. If for whatever reason, either Morris or Lecarde fall into the water and get completely submerged, they'll quickly take damage. Here comes one of the easiest mini-bosses in the game, the Water Mage. His only means of attacking you is by raising the water level. He can kill you, but that's only if you do nothing. Speaking of laughably easy mini-bosses, just go in front of the armor and duck. It'll never be able to hit you that way. Meanwhile, this axe armor can actually hit you, but yet again, pretty easy to juke it. The introduction of the Medusa heads. I also want to point out how they splash out of the water. I know nowadays that's a pretty straightforward effect, but back then, it was pretty noticeable. So, as I was saying earlier, Morris and Lecarde are basically on a road trip through Europe, trying to stop Bathory's plans. Elizabeth has quite a head start. We're at the sunken shrine of Atlantis, while she's probably at her castle. I will, YouTube. In terms of difficulty, the first two stages aren't really that difficult. Even if you play as Morris, As long as you're cautious, it isn't too bad. This is far easier than Castlevania 1 and 3. Precisely, Daibuman. In this universe, Elizabeth orchestrated the start of World War I in order to revive Dracula. Even in real life, Bathory was a serial killer. Time for a second boss, the Rock Golem. If you simply want to cheese this boss, keep spamming the special sub-weapon. I decided to play fair. For the first part of this battle, you need to chip away at the columns, so you can hit his head. But as you chip down the golem, it'll start dropping more and more rocks from the ceiling. Next up, traveling from Greece over to Italy, where we visit the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and where we encounter somewhat of a difficulty spike. The first time I played this game, I didn't know what those bird-type enemies were. They're harpies. To get past this section, just keep jumping. You'll be able to dodge most of the bone pillars. Upcoming is the first route split. If you're playing as Morris, you have to use your whip swinging abilities to go to the right. If you're playing as Lecarde, you have to spear jump upwards. This is something I wish this game did more, having separate routes for each of the characters. Indeed, Sylveon, this is where the game really begins. That mini-boss was a whole lot of something. One of the things I credit this game for is leveraging the technical capabilities of the Sega Genesis. For instance, the rotating tower. Me neither, Daibuman. Out of all the stages in the game, this is my least favorite one, mostly due to the boss battle. I talked about Lecarde and his abilities, as well as his spear. Now let me talk about the sub-weapons. Here, both characters have access to the axe, the holy water, and the boomerang. The axe works about the same way as it did in the classic games, although here it got a damage buff. Holy water the same, but it too received a damage buff. The boomerang works similarly to the cross, but not exactly. It feels like a nerfed version of the cross. Then again, the cross kinda needed a nerf anyways. It was easily one of the best sub-weapons in preceding entries. Sadly, we're missing the knife. Not that we're missing much. The knife was one of the worst sub-weapons. All sub-weapons have their place here. In addition to the base sub-weapons, you can actually use powered-up versions of them by holding up and the item use button. For the axe, you fire 3 mini-axes directly forwards. For the powered-up holy water, you throw a rotating fireball forwards. For the powered-up boomerang, you throw 3 of them forwards in a circular pattern. Unlike most other Castlevania games, I don't particularly like the boomerang. This boss, the Gargoyle. Least favorite boss in the game, and I don't blame you if you get motion sickness by watching this. It's not so much the boss's moves themselves, it's more or less the rotating tower at the bottom. Once again, Eric has the easier time here. I know Morris deals more damage against everything, but for the Gargoyle, there's a strict damage limit per phase. Essentially, your best option is to stay around the center. And to correct an earlier statement, Morris can attack upwards, just not directly upwards. Moving on to the German munitions factory. Whereas the previous 3 locations were more ancient ruins, now we have something much more modern. To add on to my earlier statement, Lecarde can actually attack diagonally at ground level too, but he can't do it while jumping, which does cause some problems in this and a future level, but not too many. Here's something many people overlook. There's an alcove over here with 4 candles. Going back to the story, this was actually Konami's attempt at canonizing Bram Stoker's Dracula. John Morris's father is Quincy Morris. Unfortunately, he was murdered. It's not exactly the same Dracula from Bram Stoker, as the events don't exactly line up. Oh, I love to mess around in this section, especially between these 2 pistons. It kinda messes up the collision detection. I also love this section, especially as Eric. I don't care about damage boosting through this. Whereas with Morris, you have to go through this the normal way. You can spear jump throughout this. Nice to see the rotating gears outside of a clock tower stage too. It was getting a bit too expected. This section. I died a half dozen times here. This is one of those locations where instead I wish I was playing as Morris. Randomly, Dr. Frankenstein's monster. If there's one critique I have about this game, it's about the difficulty of mini-bosses. Same to a lesser extent with some of the bosses. Hopefully those enemies come back in a future title. Probably Portrait of Ruin, seeing how it's this game's sequel. Oh yeah, when breaking candles, we instead acquire crystals. I suppose Bathory is using a different system of trapping souls. This boss, the Gear Steamer, looks like it came directly out of Vector Man. Whereas all the preceding bosses felt like they came from a more mystical or horror themed setting, this one looks the most out of place, both in terms of its visuals and audio. This is where playing as Morris would also be really handy. The whip swing deals 16 damage, whereas the green spear only deals 8 damage. And sub-weapons don't help as much, as all bosses, with the exception of the Armor Battler and Elizabeth's second form, receive half damage from them. Now we're in France, at the Palace of Versailles. If you get hit by the pollen, it reverses your controls temporarily. Here come our friends, the red skeletons, aka the ones that can never be destroyed. This enemy. It's always annoying to fight with your primary weapon. That's why I always resort to using the sub-weapons instead. Just keep your distance and time your swings. More fun with the spear jump. Not only does it allow you to dodge attacks, it actually damages enemies. That's another interesting aspect of the Castlevania franchise. The further we go into the timeline, the greater variety of monsters Dracula has in his army. Exactly, Daibuman. Only a few games take place in the medieval era. Another rod split. We already have a few games taking place pre-medieval, some post-medieval, some modern era, and even some futuristic. Eric decapitated that harpy. That's another thing this game does to distinguish itself from the pack, being bloodier and gorier. That's also because of Sega's laxer standards during the time. More laughably easy mini-bosses. I know these archers will return in future titles. It's not so much of a problem with the bosses, but for the mini-bosses, one of my main complaints with the game. Only instances of these two enemies, not sure why they weren't reused later. I call this the spirit column. What I should have been doing earlier is actually going to the pillar and attacking directly. or just use the axe. Speaking of sub-weapon damage, the axe deals 10 damage, usually. Axe crash 1 to 8. Next up is the Princess of Moss. Even when she reveals her true form, she isn't too tough. Just hold up and stab. If you're playing as Morris, it is a bit trickier. You don't want to accidentally jump into her. We're coming up to the final stage of the game, Proserpina Castle. Best game music coming. Best music The first game of this castle, the visual warping here. Essentially, it's broken up into 3 sections, bottom, middle, and top. During test runs, I actually fell down into the pits 3 times. Agreed, Snivy. The boss difficulty is also something I have some qualms about. Next main mechanic, reverse gravity. This is the hardest section of the castle for me. After this is smooth sailing. It wouldn't be so bad if I had mid-air control. We had that already, Sylveon. They die in one hit to everything. Sorry there, you ran out of time. So this dead encounter is different from usual. He wants to play a card game with us, which is essentially a boss rush. Don't worry, all these bosses take double damage from everything, and you only need to refight the Golem, the Gear Steamer, and the Gargoyle. One move I didn't really showcase that much in the game was the ability to attack downwards. Both hunters can utilize this move. The other 3 cards are actually attacks that can do. If you're playing on normal mode, one of those 3 cards will instead be food. Compared to everything else in the game, Gear Steamer feels kind of out of place. Oh, don't get me wrong, I quite enjoyed their battle, but graphically and visually, they feel almost directly out of Vector Man. So here's Death's attack. Also laughably easy to dodge. If you keep holding right or left 1 or 2 seconds before he does the attack, you'll easily dodge it. Eventually, I will Let's Play Vector Man on the channel. It's a game I technically have in my collection, but never completed. That'd be Magic Man, YouTube. Again, I don't really hate the gargoyle boss itself, it's more the spinning tower. You may have also noticed that I haven't been using the green snake as much, for 2 reasons. One is that it lags the game, 2, it's not really that powerful, it only deals 8 damage. Ah, poor Dad. Compared to Castlevania 1 and 3, where it was quite frightening, this was a joke. So here's Bathory herself. In her first phase, she turns into Medusa, who, following the trend, is a joke. One of the easiest Medusa encounters yet. It seems the further we go down the timeline, the easier she becomes. We have to go through this monotonous phase. She'll always teleport to the side of the screen you're farthest away from. If you're not fast enough with your strikes, she'll fire some fireballs at you. And if you let those orbs coalesce at the center, she'll throw an elemental attack at you. It could be both. That is an iconic part of the series. She only takes damage as her orbs are destroyed, so it doesn't really matter if you're playing as Morris or Lecarde. With practice, Cyan. This is actually my 46th attempt. Goodbye, Bathory. And she never makes a comeback in a feature game that I know of. Sadly, our duo is too late. Dracula has been revived. Time to slay him yet again. For this first phase, his weak point is his head. Keep a safe distance away from him so you know which one of 3 attacks he'll do. Or if you're playing as Lecarde, spear jump. I never really used this spear twirl attack. It only deals 3 damage. For the second phase, he summons in Bartley's right hand, Drolta. Whenever I first played this game, I always wondered whoever this character was. Third and final phase, where he turns into this gargoyle thing where his waist is a mount. When he turns red, he starts firing a flamethrower at you. But you can trap him at the side. For his last phase, he turns white, and every time you hit him, he releases a stream of bones, and lags the game. If I haven't made it apparent already, I love the spear jump. And that marks the end of Castlevania Bloodlines. It is snivy. This game doesn't actually take that long. Eric has fulfilled his destiny as a vampire hunter. Now, he must venture forth into greater unknowns. He should have kept the spear with him. So, here are my overall thoughts on Castlevania Bloodlines. This is a hidden gem in this franchise. I really wish more people played this game, as well as its distant cousin. Not only does it provide a satisfying Castlevania experience, it also pretty well utilizes the Genesis hardware. Oh sure, it does have its fair share of lag spikes, but they usually aren't too bad. The graphics and music were good. There were only a few tracks which I found to be eh. I have 3 main critiques about this game. My first one is about the boss difficulty balancing. Too many of them, especially in the second half of the game, are simply jokes, and the penultimate boss against Bathory herself was disappointing. My second one is in regards to the character path differentiation. It's not too large of a problem, it's simply something I wish was explored further. My third and final one is about the game's length. It's one of the shortest Classicvanias, alongside the first title. It's also not that large of a problem, yet I wish there were 2 more stages. In any case, I highly recommend you try out this game. This title is included in both the Castlevania Anniversary Collection as well as the Sega Genesis Mini game. I didn't use a vampire killer, I used the Lecarde spear. Well then, I hope you all enjoyed my let's play of this game. If you enjoyed it, please rate, comment, favorite, and or subscribe, as they all help out the channel. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter as well, and join my Discord server, as I regularly post updates there. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in a future Let's Play.